What's going on? How are you all doing today? Thank you for joining in. Want to catch up on this. Akira, thank you for joining in. Sam, thank you for the alert. Guilty, what's going on? And Misty, as always, thank you for the host. How are you all doing tonight? We've got an amazing lineup of some fan fictions submitted by you all. Yes, my kitty. What can I help you with? My kitty has decided to join us on the floor. So, this week on episode 4 of Goblin Slayer. Oh my god, I just finished season 1 of Goblin Slayer. So what can I say? Except, damn. And I'm fully, hey buddy. Yes, do you want to say hi to the stream? If you've got kitty emotes, spam them now. Because we've got kitty on board. Hi cat. Yep, there's the claws. Yep. Okay. There you go. You can just lurk up there. We should have a chat about it as soon as possible. Sounds good to me. I'm fully caught up. Goblins! Yeah, exactly. There are the claws! Did you just... Okay, you decided to run off. Alright. But yeah, I'm fully caught up on Goblin Slayer now, and the season is over, so I'm happy about that. And I'm actually fully caught up on Shield Hero as well, which is an amazing anime, and I will fight anybody to the death and say, Shield Hero, in my opinion, is much better than Goblin Slayer. But what I was saying is we've got a whole bunch of fanfictions actually submitted through a Reddit thread. Posted something up there on Reddit, was like, hey, on the fanfiction subreddit, was like, hey, what do y'all think about this idea? And that's where a lot of them come in tonight. Can't find Shield Hero yet. Goblin Slayer is not all that great, really. Ooh, I know nothing, so I trust you. Yeah, in my opinion, Goblin Slayer is really rough. Like, it's really rough. That first episode, you go, oh my god. You have to drink and watch it. I will say Goblin Slayer does get a little tiresome after a while. It's like one shtick that just keeps going and going and going. It kind of changes over the course, but as a whole, it kind of keeps going. Whereas Shield Hero kind of changes. World building, okay. Stories, whatever. Character work is not great. No, I'll agree with that one. Except the Priestess Girl. So, how are you doing tonight there, Misty? How is Thanos? How's Thanos the Wonder Cat? So we've got some excellent looking fanfictions set up for the night. We've got one from Doug, who I don't think is here. And then we've got one by Gildy, and then we've got a bunch of them from everybody on Reddit. Goblin Slayer is funny because of how obsessed he is at doing one thing. Weaponized autism. Or weaponized mental trauma, I would say, is better. Misty says he's getting his stitches out removed tomorrow. Whoop whoop. We got a stitch-free kitty. And Guilty says mine is brutal. I think you might have to compete for brutality with one other one, maybe. Yeah. I'm glad that Thanos is getting his stitches out. We've all been rooting for him. So let's get to the first one going. We got 3 hours to go. We've got some good fanfictions to go. First one up is by Doug. Okay, let's get this going. That is the wrong audio input. Haha! I am a professional, can you tell? Yes, I am totally a professional. Okay. Just kidding, I'm not. I should be. Because I've got an important interview next week. Robotech and the Voltron Fates United. By President Doug. Here, aboard the SDF-1, dubbed New Macross City, we need your help making the city safe. Join the Galaxy Garrison, fly with our boys in white, and keep the ship safe when Voltron is away. The screen changed to a scene of Voltron standing by the flight deck of the SDF-1, with a row of destroids in front of it, and Garrison flight teams standing in front of them. Lin Min Mei, as always, was standing in the foreground. Sure thing, Min Mei. Join the Garrison, fly with the big guy, whatever you say. Rick strolled down the street, laughing to himself that the girl he once knew, who was trapped in the belly of the ship, was now the literal poster girl of the military. The girl who once worked for her uncle's Chinese restaurant was now telling guys like him they could be heroes and fly by Voltron. Fat chance of that happening. Could you just imagine that happening? Me flying one of those things? Things, again, zipping around Voltron like nothing. Screen changed again and was now displaying the advert for an upcoming mayoral race. The klaxon alarm began to blare. The interior environmental light turned to crimson red, and the streets emptied of people. Rick raced toward the closest building still open, running past the man standing at the door, beckoning Rick off the street. On the far wall of the establishment was a massive window that looked across the flight deck. Rick watched the Veritex launch in rapid succession. He knew the tail colors and codes. He watched as Red Squadron was launched, Silver Squadron was launched, with the exception of Silver 5, and then Skull Squadron, Skull 2 in command. Why isn't Roy leading the squad? He's always going on that he's the Garrison's best pilot, Rick mumbled out loud as he watched the fighters streak off the deck and into the mostly dark void of space. It always caught him off guard that for how long the fighters are in atmosphere, they're silent in space. He couldn't see the enemy craft yet, but as he understood from one of Roy's lectures about why the bridge crew is the best in the Garrison, the ship's long-range sensors could detect spacefold anomalies anywhere in the solar system. However, the enemy, known as the Strati, had been getting smart. The enemy would fold several of their ships into the system at a time, in multiple locations, to throw off where the main attack will come from. Suddenly, out of the ink-like void, several ships emerged into view. Without standard running lights, the ships were basically invisible to the normal idea. This is my favorite part. Our boils will meet the enemy head-on, and due to our more maneuverable fighter, we slip past their lines and wreck them. The establishment owner stood behind Rick, looking out at the fight transpiring seamlessly right over the flight deck, but in reality, was miles off. Why doesn't a fine young man like you fly with them? I hear they need all the help they can get. You know, I know the advertisements on the board. I've seen them too. Fly with our boys, fly with Voltron. It's not for me. I don't want to be some big damn hero. Rick cut off the owner abruptly. It's not about being a hero. I don't care for those signs either. It's about doing what you can. Have you read the Garrison updates? The man pursed his lips and pulled out a datapad that was open to the Garrison update. No, why would I? Rick was cut off, and the datapad was shoved into his hand. Read it. The man let go of the datapad and walked behind the bar. He pulled out 2 low tumblers and poured an amber liquid into the glasses. We regret to inform our small city the following service member has given their lives for the ship and our city this month. C. Allison, Z. Daniels, G. Zardari, S. Tagachi, L. Sokol, E. Toli, M. Whitman. All service members will be memorialized on the bridge and on the center circle park pedestal. Rick set down the pad and looked out the window. He knew that this was war, but it never truly hit him. This wasn't the flying circus where if someone died, it was due to malfunction or pilot error. This was men and women, the same age as him, flying an unknown enemy, millions of miles from their home, their planet. This war wasn't like any other war either. It wasn't about land or resources. It was survival. If they didn't fight, the ship would be destroyed, and the next target would be Earth, provided it was still there. Rick turned and sat at the counter, his head held in his hands. The bar owner cleared his throat and placed one of the glasses by Rick's arm. None of those kids wanted to be as what you call it, big damn heroes. They just wanted to keep what may be the last surviving humans in existence. The man stood behind the counter, watching the twinkling battle outside the window. Now drinks on the house. Rick and the man sat in silence as the battle raged for a bit, then died down. Some of the fighters barely landed on the flight deck in one single piece. Rick sat mindlessly looking out the window as he contemplated what he would do. He wanted to do what he could, but he'd promised his father that he would take over the flying circus after getting Roy back from Maycross Island. Things were different now, though. He was living in a spaceship that is the fusion of alien technology and human engineering that holds a city in its belly, under threat of extraterrestrial origin. Oh yeah, and there existed a giant mech made from 5 smaller mechs that looked like lions. He stopped at the vid phone in the park opposite the memorial pedestal, threw in a couple coins, and dialed Roy. Hey, Roy? Is it worth it? Rick didn't know what to say. He wanted to know what he could do. He wanted Roy to tell him to enlist or leave. He didn't know which. Is it worth jumping in the cockpit every time the alarm sounds? Of course it is. Besides, who else is going to protect your scrawny ass? Roy laughed loudly, causing a figure in the background to roll over in bed, and grumbled loudly. Roy Folker, it is 10 in the damn evening. You know I have to be on the bridge in the morning. Can you please either take the call out of the room or keep it quiet? By the sound of the voice was Claudia Grant, Roy's fiancée and commanding officer. Yeah, sorry babe, you get some sleep. I'm gonna go meet Rick at the park. I'll be back. Roy slipped on his jacket and hung up the phone. Okay, guess I'll wait here then. Rick slowly stepped away from the phone. Now with time to kill and nowhere to go, he wandered to the park. Eventually he found himself in front of the memorial, looking at the names. The pedestal was made of rock that was found floating aside the SDF-1 after the fold and turned into a memorial with the quote, "The true soldier fights, not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him," followed by the names of the servicemen and women who fought and died since the fold. Rick traced his hands across the names. Some of the names he knew. Rick! I got here as soon as I could. What up, little brother? Roy came jogging up behind Rick. Roy, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna enroll in the garrison. Rick turned and looked at Roy, dead in the eyes. This was Robotech and Voltron Fates United by President Doug. That was good. I am a huge fan of Robotech and Voltron, so to see both of those combined means good things for me. Give me a second to save this and we'll get back to answering some questions from a chat. What is today? The 15th? As a huge fan of Robotech and Voltron, I am very pleased with that. Okay, let's go back. Let's open this new one. Okay. And drop that there. Okay, let's go. What? Okay, so my interview is I'm going to be talking to a psychologist next week, regarding a special topic that is going to be podcast related, and Zelda related. So it's going to be gaming and psychology mixed into one. episode of the Gaming and Chill podcast, which is the podcast that I run, as many of you know. So it's going to be an interesting podcast. Schnarf says, sup? I say, sup back. What's going on? Thank you for joining in on the party. I believe you're one of the people who submitted a podcast, or not a podcast, a fanfic. So it looks like you are a little early, but that's okay. Yeah, a little bit early, but that's totally okay. Then we got Gildy. Italics means somebody speaking via the wolf bond via the mind. Wolf telepathy. Then Gildy says the crossover needs to happen. I think it already has technically, but Doug's writing about it differently. I believe there's a comic about it. There was a comic about it that happened. So that's totally dope. And Ben Gildy says the gaming and psych. That's what my Ecto Girl is all about. Exactly. It's about it's a actual professional who talks about the psychology of the Zelda series. I got an email about it this week, actually. So I'm excited about it. It should be a lot of fun. I'm excited by it, you know? It's one of those things where I am glad to get to do something. You know me. I love... there's a lot of psychology in it. There is a lot of psychology in Zelda. Because there is the whole theory that Majora's Mask is all about loss and things like that. So I think that's an extremely valid argument. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. And I had a pen out so I could write down some of the interesting pronunciations you gave me. But yeah, I'm excited by that. So, is anybody else a super fan of Robotech or Voltron? I know that Doug and Sam are, and also there was a couple references in there. If you know them, you should let me know, because I do know them. We've got Mirrodome. It's Murdral. Murdral. Is Elias, I'm sorry. I'm writing these down. Elias. And Matura. Do it. Okay. Just need to refresh. Okay. Sounds good. Boom. There we go. Oh, it's like notifications. You've got Overwatch stuff. Nah, fam, I'm good. Guilty says, fuck yeah, I need to refresh. Do it as I sip on my ever so tasty cranberry juice. It's actually one of my favorite cranberry juice of all times. Not my favorite cranberry juice, duh, of course. Cranberry juice is cranberry juice, you can't really screw with it. Cranberry juice is one of my favorite juices of all time, is what I was saying. So, I need to refresh on Voltron. Okay. Yeah, please do. It's totally worth it. 7,000 notifications, none of them useful to me. Thank you. Okay. Love pineapple juice. Pineapple juice. Okay. I don't know why I was wanting to read that weird, like pineapple. No one drinks pineapple. It's just lazy. Okay. But yeah, so Robotech, I have a love. I love that series because I grew up with it, and so, and same with Voltron. It's just one of those shows that I watched as a kid, and it stuck with me. If you told me right now that the military would have Veritex, I would totally do it. I would totally be like, join the Galaxy Garrison, yes please. I'll do that right now. I think it's because you said pineapple on two different words. I was like, eh. My brain was like, those should be one word. But if you could have any two universes combined, smash into one universe, what would it be? Other than Robotech Voltron. What do you think outside the box? For those who are just joining, welcome to FanFiction Friday. When I'm reading, typically I will not be able to respond to chat because I like to read it all in one sitting with as little screw ups as possible. Knowing me, that doesn't always happen. But I also record it separately, and that's why. So that I have a clean audio set recording without the music in the background that you hear as well. So I have a clean audio recording. I mold Star Trek and The Expanse together? Ooh. Ooh. I would take Star Trek and Farscape. Or Farscape and Battlestar Galactica. Oh, ooh. Wait a minute. I've got a better one. What about Battlestar Galactica and Robotech? Both of them have the same kind of story of humans being exiled from their home planet and having to fight for one ship that's their life. Or Farscape and Stargate. I believe there was an episode that kind of hinted at that. They kind of joked around about it. I think it was episode 200, where they had a Farscape-inspired Stargate SG-1 episode. Or idea. Babylon 5 and Stargate? Ooh, that would be good. Or Babylon 5 Robotech. That would be dope. Because, like, I don't know. I'm thinking I've got Robotech on the brain, but Babylon 5 and really anything of the space ones could work together. Babylon 5 and Battlestar Galactica. I need to go back and watch Battlestar. Not Battlestar. Well, yes, Battlestar. Battlestar Galactica is good. Need to go back and watch Babylon 5. The Ori Takeover Robotech. Ooh, that would be terrifying. That would be absolutely terrifying. You know? That'd just be terrifying, you know? Ooh, or the Shadows. That'd be Takeover. They become the Zentradi. I think it was the Shadows. Was that wasn't that their name? The Shadows. You need to write that. Get with Doug and write that. I think that would work. I think that would work. So I want to explain something. I made a couple changes since the last time I read. You'll notice a whole new layout. So I want to let you all know the Wraith take on Voltron. Ooh. So I want to let you all know that there are now better perks for subbing. So T1 subs basically have when submitting, their fanfictions are read in front of those who are not subbed at all. T2 go in front of T1, T3 go above all. Just to let you know. That's kind of the perks I have right now, and I'm probably gonna stick with that one. Of the higher you sub, the more precedence you take, because and Stargate, Star Trek, and Star Wars combined. No Star Wars. As much as I love the series, I don't think it jives with the rest of the universe. But I was like, that would be a nice perk, because with reading more fan fictions, like, hey, I hope, honestly, my dream is to have too many fan fictions to ever read. A never-ending circuit of fan fictions. So, have a little bit of priority there. That's my thought. That way it's like, okay, cool. It's an incentive to sub, I think. I think that works. You still get red regardless. It just pushes it forward. And Gildy, you'll get a kick out of this one. Before I go on to read the next one, you'll get a kick out of this one. I've actually also updated my bit alarms for 1069 and exactly 6969 bit alarm that I think you'll appreciate. Really, they go armed with lightsabers. The Gould armed with lightsabers. No, I'm really more thinking about the spaceships. The spaceships really don't jive with Stargate and Star Trek, in my opinion. Maybe the Star Destroyers with the Daedalus, but not really Star Trek. Okay, let's read, because we got some people waiting on their fanfictions. Gildy, this one's yours. So let's get this read. The Pack and the Eyeless, A Wheel of Time Lost Scene by FanFic. Chapter 1. Elias Machera, his golden eyes opened wide, waking suddenly. There, the noise came again. That's what had awoken him. The sharp report of a snapping twig. Several of his friends' growl of warning came to his ears too now. Softly. A greasy scent came rolling through the cool night air. There was also a certain absence of sorts. A void in the night. Danger. Elias snatched up his bow and quiver. He wondered what the danger was. A bear? Rival pack? If the latter, he hoped he had enough arrows. Wolf brother. I know. Elias sent back to the wolves. Hackles raised, like smoke's own shade. Elias rose, drawing his long knife. Elias took measured breaths, crouching, waiting. Silence reigned. Suddenly, an odd cast came over the gazes of the wolves. His friend's eyes were glazing over with the fervor of feasibility. Not since he'd seen a wolf go rabid had Elias seen that in a wolf's eyes. Then he realized what it was. An ardent desire for battle. The lambent glow of bloodlust glinted in his friend's gazes. Hatred was there too. Oh yes, a deep, abiding loathing. Once this fight, whatever it was going to be with, whatever it was going to be against, he'd best get out of his friend's way. He now had two things to avoid: an enemy and an ally. Friends and foes. Oh yes, this was going to be sticky indeed. Oh yeah. Out of nothing, two things happened simultaneously and abruptly. His friend, all 112 of them, bolted into the surrounding forest, and a Trolloc band charged into the small clearing Elias had been sleeping in. Elias charged the Trolloc, long knife first, and bellowing. He booted on in the groin, spun, diving his knife hilt deep into one's eye, and ducked a blow with an iron cudgel. He counted swiftly. 10. Elias didn't have to wonder for how long, where the rest of the wolves had gone, as a cry had come up from the wolves. Never born, never born, never born, must seek, must sniff, track, find, kill, kill, kill the neverborn, give battle. A Maradral. Elias's heart went out to his friends. Please, cautious, he said. How was a fading, of all things, loose in the forest tonight? He shut the wolves out of his head. He had to, in order to focus upon defending himself. He disarmed a charging Trolloc, taking his sword from him and swung. Gore glued at the air as Elias took the Trolloc's skull off its broad shoulders. He spun, taking another Trolloc in the chest, killing that one too. He had to let the sword go, though. as the guy was lodged in the corpse of that Trolloc. Instead of fighting further, he fled into the forest proper. There could be no telling how many Trollocs had with it. It could just be 10 or a core. So he fled for the wolves. I come. Ripple has fallen. Elias hated to think that he was going to bring who knew how many Trollocs right behind him. Now he'd have to worry about a Fade, Trollocs, and very angry wolves. Friends or no, they were still wolves. Running or standing or no, things could become slightly worrying. He pulled an arrow from his quiver, knocking it to string as he ran through the dark forest. A thought persisted. Kill the Fade, kill the Trollocs. He had to kill the Fade in order to kill the Trollocs, thanks to their connection. He rounded a bend, skidding to a halt on the forest floor. He could skid because everywhere he looked in about a 5-foot radius, there's blood. Gore covered the forest floor. He dipped down and tasted it. Wolf's blood. He could hear an almighty uproar, not too far off. Howling, yipping, snarling, hissing, primal conflict. He ran towards the din. Gutter Trolloc calls came from behind. Elias turned to the Fade, and the Trolloc would be on either side of him, poised to fight for his life. A Fade to my right, Trollocs to my left. Here I am. Here I am, Elias mumbled. The throat! A wolf cried desperately. Elias dove towards the noise, stopped dead. There were pieces of wolves everywhere. About half the pack was scattered about the forest. Elias couldn't believe it. Rather, he didn't want to believe it. Meanwhile, the rest of the pack had the Fade on his knees. As he watched, the Fade sliced another wolf in two as it leapt to the Fade's throat. Thankfully, that's when the rest of the wolves got smart. 5 of the larger ones left, charging in from behind, and tore the Fade's sword arm off the Fade's body. Though the thing's sword was gone, the arm was still trying to cut anything in its way, and the rest of the Fade punched another wolf, caving in its skull. Elias winced. Filthy vermin, the Fade hissed. Elias loosed every arrow he had at this thing, then ran. The bloody Trollocs were nearly up on him. As the Trollocs tried to charge on the wolves, Elias rounded back, kicked another Trolloc in the groin, stole its dropped long knife, and opened the Trolloc's throat. He slapped another Trolloc on the way past. They began to give chase. However, the Fade gave the order to aid it instead. The Trolloc stopped and began to do what the Fade told him to do. Elias sighed. It was a fight then. He began to dance around the Trollocs. The Fade began to stand, but wolves came in and attacked the Fade's legs, breaking the both of them with their jaws. The others descended upon the Fade, tearing it apart. 3 more wolves died, and several more were in trouble, due to the acid that made up the thing's blood. The Trollocs dropped instantly. The binding had been severed. Be wary, friends. A Neverborn will take you with it, even after it dies, if you let it. It takes a long time for them to die properly. The wolves heeded his words. We know. Elias nodded. The pack stayed with Elias for a long time. After all, they were a pack with lost, and have experienced loss together. As one, they began to howl. That was Chapter 1 of The Pack and the Eyeless, A Wheel of Time Lost Scene by FanFic. Was pretty good. I'm gonna say spell check, maybe don't. So I feel like I was not saying some of the words right. Because I feel like they might have been misspelled. But I'm not a grammar person. So do what you will. That's just my takeaway. Oops, that was just my takeaway of maybe a something to do. Like I said, not a professional. Take it how you will. I liked it. Oops. There we go. There we go. My draw is right, but ferocity and not and one not on. Okay. Just a theory. I like it. That's a single chapter out of a longer work of art, correct? Because I think it would be cool. I think it's cool. Now, was I saying Trollope? I counted 3 mistakes. Okay. Something I might suggest, and again, I don't know what your process is, and I don't pretend to know. I'm not a writer by any means, which is why I read. Is print it out and then read it from there out loud. Print it out and read it out loud, like in front of a mirror or something, and with a pen. And that way mark down, okay, that works, that works, that works. That way you can also get breathing as well. And it's, in a weird sense, easier to spot mistakes or anything when you're having to say it out loud. You're not reading it from memory and you're not reading it in your head, because your head automatically corrects things. Like when I read certain things, your brain actually skips over a lot of words. More words than you actually realize, but your brain automatically fills in the words that it knows it's supposed to be there. So if you spell the, or let's go with game, G-A-M-E. Smoke's own shade. I like that line. I like that line. A lot of good descriptions. I like it. So say you have the word game, G-A-M-E. As long as the G and E are in the same place, A and M can be anywhere in the sentence, anywhere in the word, so they can be flipped around. But your brain automatically goes, that's game, because that's the configuration. Your brain basically goes, G-M-A-E, done, game. If it's a word you know, specifically, your brain will go, I know this word, it only can be game, because G-M-A-E isn't a word. Schnarf says, excellent advice. Sometimes things might look fine on the page, but feel awkward when spoken aloud. It can help a lot in the polishing process. Like I said, I don't write, I read. And I like orating and speaking, which is why I have a podcast. And I do have something to say. No, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, whatever your process is, that's your process. All I can do, all me, Snarf, and anybody can do is give an idea. If you choose not to use that idea, you are more than free, and you are encouraged to give whoever is giving you bad advice in your head the fickle finger of fate. Go, you know what? Screw off. This is my work. If you want to change it so badly, go write something yourself. Then come and talk to me. And you're more than encouraged to do that. If you're ever like Derek, you're giving bad advice, just tell me, Derek, you're giving bad advice, and I kindly request no more advice. Just read, please. Dense, monkey, dense. You know, and I'm okay with that. I actually enjoy reading it as much as talking about it. I truly enjoy it. If you do the same thing over and over, you won't be prepared for challenge, and that's what it is, a challenge. It's healthy to broaden your horizon. Exactly. So that's why, like, when I create, I'm actually in the middle of a coding project. For a tracker, for a game. And I can know what it's supposed to do, but having to explain it to somebody else, including my wife, I'm like, oh, that's how I do this. It basically clicks a piece into a different spot and goes, you've had to think about it from a different angle of, you know what it's supposed to do, so you're looking for it to do that. But when you're trying to explain it to somebody else, it changes the perspective, and you have to understand why it's doing the thing it does. Just a thought. It's something I've learned through coding, through work. A lot of that, especially through work, of it trying to go, I don't see your point of view. Let's talk to me about your point of view, or why do you want this thing in place in this system? Oh, okay, you want it for this. I don't get it, but let's do it. And then it clicks. So it's all about just shaking things up. Like I said, your brain goes on autopilot and goes, yep, I wrote this, so it's good. Do. But it may not work. I know that when I write stuff, I actually send it to another friend of mine. I'm like, hey, does this make sense? Or am I just reading it in my head? Also, a person was upset because I just kept using a Neverborn or Fade for the Mydraw. If I use the others, people would be confused, and it's not the right thing for the character either. What do you think about that? So just keep using Neverborn or Fade. I think it's okay. I think if they're upset that you're not using the right... Okay, take this with a grain of salt, and this is not meant to be insulting. It may sound it. If they're upset that you're not using a made-up word correctly, I think that person may just not be okay. I mean, there's a difference because a tool, so let's go with this, a tool for mechanics. There is an Allen wrench. We all know it. You get it from IKEA. It's a little hex bolt, little Allen wrench. It looks like an L. It is called an Allen wrench as a technicality. However, I call it a Jesus wrench. Because when you're looking for it among the pieces, you go, Jesus, where is this thing? It makes sense. Mickle plays game says konnichiwa. It's in the world. Okay, or in Star Wars. That's actually a way better example than an Allen wrench. In Star Wars, all the battle droids are battle droids. There's super battle droids. There's droidicas, and there's other types of droids, I'm sure, as well. But all of the clones call them clankers, because that is their colloquialism. Just saying. So they may be called a Muradral, but someone else can go, they're a Fade, they're a Neverborn. Okay, so Mickle, we're discussing in Gildy's last fanfiction, there is I would say a species called a Murdral, which is, as I understand it, they are a misty, a mistborn entity, if I'm understanding. Gildy can explain it, but they were mad. There are 8 pejoratives for Mydraw. Is a Mydraw a real word? God, am I saying something horrible? Men made from paper. Oh, okay. First and foremost, Wheel of Time is a thing. Okay. Murdral, or Shadow Spawn, muscular and serpent, quick with lank black hair and waxy white skin. They have no eyes, but can see with perfect clarity. Their appearance never varies. They are always male in appearance, with identical features and builds described as being like that of a tall man. They were battle leaders of the Shadow during the imprisonment of the Forsaken after the demise of the Dread Lords. So, it sounds like they're a mixture of that one creature in Pan's Labyrinth, and I actually haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, so sue me now. He's got the hands and the eyes, and the mixture of Nazgul. So, the way I'm understanding, so somebody got upset that you only used 3 pejoratives for Murdrals when there are 8. What did this person want? Like, did the person want you to just list them all off? Is that, am I understanding that correctly? I mean, I don't understand the logic behind it. They sound like beasts who have no idea what they're doing. The way I'm understanding more like Nazgul. I'm guessing they want them all. That's just weird. I'm sorry, that's just weird. but they're fighting for something greater. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. That's just weird that they wanted you to use them all. I'd say dispersion. I don't know. Are they? Here's my theory. No, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes asking super fans of something to read a book or read a fan fiction is a terrible idea. Because they're gonna go, that's not in canon. That's not in canon. They can't separate canon from not canon. It's like my dad in the new Star Trek movies. He watched all the original Star Trek. But when the new Star Trek movies came out, he couldn't enjoy them because he knew too much of the old canon. Just saying. There's too much of the old for them to enjoy the new. Without great effort, I should say. I don't know. I just don't know there. You know, Christmas Vacation when Clark is using all those insulting our boss, I do that with the Fade in my new wheel of time. Misty, you're confused, and I'm a bit, but you're silent. The Mitos with them. I don't know. I don't know. Let's read the next one, and then we'll continue this discussion, and we'll talk about another piece of work and how that can be used. This one is. You want them all? I'll give you them all at once. Oh my god, real fast. It's like that one scene from Malcolm in the Middle where Malcolm called his dad something stupid, pejorative, a swear word, and his dad literally printed out every swear word and made Malcolm look him in the eyes as he used them as punishment. I was like a just huge stack of paper, and he's like, stupid, ass, dick. That's just how I imagine a person wanted you to be. Never born. Faded. I don't know. That's all I can imagine. Wait, what are the fan fictions about? Okay, so we're having different fan fictions from different people. So Gildies was a Wheel of Time. Earlier I had one that was Robotech and Voltron. The one I'm getting ready to read is based on Loud House, which is something I've actually never heard of. We've got one that's Planet of the Apes. We've got one for Zelda. We've got one for Zootopia, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, and yep, that was that. So all different types of fanfiction tonight as a whole. Because I put out a thread on Reddit and was like, hey, looking for some fanfiction to read. And that is what came up. Boom. So all sorts of different fanfictions. So which is next? Right now we're getting up ready to go read Loud House. Is a cartoon which I've never heard of. So they say try and spot all the references. So if you've watched Loud House, feel free to call them out in chat, because I will not know them, first and foremost. Unless they're references to other stuff, at which point I might be able to get. You've watched. Okay, great. Then let's go ahead and get to reading it. I'm not confused. I'm just listening while I play Sims. I'm glad that my voice is soothing enough to listen to while playing The Sims. The fuck's Loud House? I have no idea. I'm probably going to go look it up after this. I'm a human child, and I'm proud. Hey, you know? Let's do this. And so, if you're new, when I'm reading, I typically am not able to react to chat, because I'm actually also recording this for, if authors want their work, they can actually have a copy of a clean audio without the music. So, that's what I don't react to chat as much. And then but I do go back and catch up. Hello, fellow children. Okay, so let's read this. Oblivious by Shadowfax0259, a Loud House fanfiction. Last night, Hugh dreamt he was speaking to his girlfriend again. She had long, flowing hair, and her eyes were like diamonds, sparkling like the stars in the night sky. Damn, they were beautiful. The voice he heard from her was perfect, resonating within his eardrums as he listened intently to every word that she said. She was talking about how amazing her day was, the familiar middle school friend that she met at the library today, the picture she took of a boy and a girl chasing one another at the park today, and of course, how terribly she missed him all day. It was a pity that she didn't have any classes with him. They didn't even share the same lunches, or even got the chance to talk to one another in the hallway. High school sucked because of that fact. They never met each other as often anymore. And in class, the only thing that both of them could think about was each other. Maybe about what they did last week. Maybe about what they were doing right now. Maybe about what they were going to do in 10 years in the future. Infatuation happened a lot in high school. Well, with all the puberty and the raging hormones and whatever. But it was clear that this was no simple crush or obsession. They wanted to spend every waking moment with one another. Wanted to be with each other till the end of time. Wanted to have kids with one another. This was true love. So then I told her that I needed to go, Lincoln said. But isn't today a free day for you today? Uh-huh. But I wouldn't want to miss out on spending time with my girlfriend, now would I? She blushed a crimson red, smile still plastered on her cheeks. Her demure hands reached for her hair, pulling her silky locks that covered her head. You didn't have to do that for me. I'm perfectly fine with you spending time with your other friends. He reached at his hand, placing it gently on her left cheek, tenderly rubbing it. I know, but I wanted to. He smiled, she smiled, they both smiled. I love you, Lincoln. I love you too. He closed his eyes and leaned in close for a kiss, their lips crashing into one another. Then he woke up. His eyes fluttered open to the sound of the irritating beeps that emitted from that damn alarm clock. He sat upright in his bed, bleary-eyed, and looked over toward the clock. The clock practically yelled, 6:30 at him in those big, dumb, stupid, old red font that every annoying alarm clock liked to use. After all, how else were you going to wake up sleepy teenagers that slept at 12 midnight because they were too busy mining for diamonds? His bed was small, but it was sizable. He preferred to sleep on the side nearest to the drywall, but at the same time he disliked it a lot. Firstly, because it seemed like the drywall was too brittle and soft. He was afraid he would kick in his sleep and it would put a hole in it. Secondly, because it left a large empty area in the remaining space. Almost like someone was supposed to sleep there. But they weren't actually there. If you hadn't guessed it by now, yes, Lincoln, in fact, did not have a girlfriend. If he had one, he'd be a lot happier right now. He sighed. Why didn't anyone want to be with him? He wasn't jacked, but he was kind and nice. Was that a basic human requirement? All he wanted was to cuddle next to. Was that so hard? He got up out of bed, opening the doorway to the hallway. Outside stood a long line of girls, whom he called sisters, because they were, his sisters. They'd been acting weird since Lincoln matured, though. Something about them changed. He wasn't sure what it was. Women truly were a mystery. Hey, Link, want to hear a joke? The resident funny woman of that loud house was about to tell him a pun. Lincoln couldn't place his finger on what was weird about her, but something was definitely off. Her face was red, and she looked like she was sweating a lot. Go ahead, Luann. A sister asks her brother, hey, do you want to sleep with me in my bed tonight? Brother says, no, but thank you. She says, oh no, I incest. She then slapped her knee, almost about to keel over and die from how funny the joke was to her. Lincoln, on the other hand, kept a straight face as he heard the joke. Not because it was out of taste, because it was probably the 5th time he had heard it. This week alone.
Why was she making so many incest jokes? Luann was never one to refuse material. If anything, she hated it. It didn't make sense. Anyway, back to Lincoln's girlfriend problem. Why didn't any girl find him attractive? He had everything girls wanted. He was friendly, kind, and somewhat attractive. I mean, he wasn't sure he wasn't a neckbeard. He was kind of tall and had the typical attractive features, just jaw, lean figure, and huge. Just that moment, the bathroom door unlocked and it swung open. Lincoln snapped out of his train of thought, preparing to enter the bathroom, but from within, a blonde had stepped out. Lincoln recognized it as his second oldest sister, Lenny. She'd apparently forgotten to put on her towel around her body. "Hey, Lenny, I think you left your towel in the bathroom," he said. However, she would completely ignore his question. "Hey, Linky, notice anything?" she seductively said. "Noticed you don't have your towel on." "I know, do you like it?" "Like what? My body without a towel on? I would like it better if you had a towel on." Her face changed from one of the seductiveness to a look of disdain. She scoffed at his remarks and walked off haughtily, which only confused Lincoln even more. What did he say to make her upset? He shrugged and took over her place from the bathroom. He walked inside, closing the door behind him. He walked over to the sink, which had the bathroom mirror placed directly above it. He took out his sword of hygiene from his holster, squeezing out a dollop of toothpaste on it, and attacked his mouth with a flurry of swishes and brushes. Where was he again? Alright, on topic of why he was physically unable to obtain every man's dream in life, a girlfriend, or a boyfriend, if you were that kind of person, or both, if you were greedy. He continued brushing his teeth as he scrutinized his face closely in the mirror. He wasn't that unattractive, was he? I mean, maybe he wasn't every girl's dream type, but surely he was at least one girl's type, right? He spat out the mixture in his mouth and rinsed it off. He took off his shirt to reveal the tone, muscular and lean. Well, not really. All those magazines and movies all showed male teenagers having these ripped, wiry muscles. Lincoln called bullshit. Puberty didn't do anything to him. He looked at his body and maybe saw one or two defined muscles that stared back at him. He was kind of skinny fat, but not really. Kind of lean, but definitely not mean. Maybe that was his problem. His body. Maybe girls were looking for a guy who went to the gym 24/7. Someone who lifted weights and did rows and did squats or whatever. Sisters used to say that they weren't bothered by a guy's body shape, that it didn't matter. What truly mattered was a guy's personality. It was kind of true, judging from their boyfriends. Bobby was skinny as hell. He had a six-pack, but not the I go to the gym every day six-pack. It was the I haven't eaten anything in the past 6 months six-pack. And Chaz was portly and stout, but Lenny didn't seem to mind that, seeing as she was in love with him anyway. And his dad was... Well, his dad had the dad bod, and a beer belly, but Mom didn't seem to mind. But these were his sisters and Mom. Surely their preferences didn't reflect the general population's opinions. If their words were right, Lincoln would have at least gotten one girl by now. Honestly, how hard could it be? Maybe it wasn't about muscles. Maybe it was about height. Maybe he was too short. Hey, Link, do you have a moment? Link's train of thought was once again ruined by the voice that startled him outside the bathroom door. He sighed in frustration. How many times would his thought process be interrupted today? He walked up to the bathroom door. Yeah? Dude, I'm kind of running late here. Do you mind if I come in and we can bathe together? Running late? Isn't it only 7? Yeah, but, and isn't sharing the bathroom with me weird? Yeah, but, and... Okay, I get it, Lincoln. Silence filled the air as the voice outside the door gradually faded into nothing. Luna wanted to share the bathroom with him. They hadn't bathed together ever since they were kids, and here she was asking if they would want to bathe with one another. Weird. Lincoln shrugged. He continued stripping off articles of clothing from his pants, his body, his pants, his underwear, until he was completely naked. He stared at himself in the mirror again. Sadly, he wasn't tall enough to see his package hanging from the mirror. Maybe that was why he wasn't getting a girlfriend, because he wasn't packing heat. He stepped over and into the bathtub, placing both feet firmly on the floor of the porcelain. He twisted the knobs until it was his desired temperature. Maybe it was something he had taken from his sisters. But Lincoln enjoyed spending time in the bathroom, enjoyed showering, and not that other thing you're thinking of. He continued his discussion with himself as he continued his body's daily maintenance. Maybe body type really was the answer to his problems. He remembered stepping into the men's locker room during PE. Oh, how he remembered seeing everything. And he remembered seeing himself being seen by other people. Some were bigger, some were smaller. But other than that, he was pretty average. Maybe that was the problem. Averageness. Maybe he was too average for any girl to actually like him. He didn't stand out from the crowd, with the exception of his white hair. He was average build, average weight, average height, average everything. He twisted the knobs back again, stopping the shower of rain. He looked down at himself. Maybe if he had enough time, he could... That would take way too long. Was that what women liked? Did they like it long? Not the thing, the act. Did they want it to last long? Judging the sounds of Mom and Dad, probably not. Maybe they didn't. Or maybe Dad was lightning fast. Actually, why was he on this topic again? He wrapped a towel around himself. It covered his lower body, leaving his upper body exposed to the outside world. He needed to hurry up, else he would be late for his test on European socialism. But seriously, what was the point of this test? It wasn't European, nor did he intend to become European. So who gives a crap if they were socialists? It still wouldn't change the fact that he didn't have a girlfriend. He opened the door and heard the inaudible shrieks of terror from his sisters when he did. Why were they so close to the bathroom door? Why are you so close to the bathroom door? He asked. Because we want to see how long you took. His sporty sister's words trailed off. She had, for some reason, decided to stop looking at him in the eyes. Her eyes had instead trailed to lower to his abdomen. Maybe there was a scratch or something there. To shower, he finished. She nodded her head without looking at him, again, much to Lincoln's befuddlement. Quizzical, puzzled, perplexed, and doubtful. Feelings of confusion washed over him as he shrugged, giving the whatever look. Before walking back to his room, he'd noticed something else from his sisters, though. They were all strangely looking at him with red faces, as if they had caught him with his pants down. Well, first of all, he was quite sure the towel hadn't slipped off while he wasn't looking. And second, he wasn't wearing any pants for them to come down. Oh well, the inner machinations of women's minds were an enigma. Cued to a carton of milk falling over. He closed the door behind him, making sure to close his windows and locking his doors. Maybe he shouldn't have taken a sick day today. Then he would have more time to mope around. After all, he did watch that movie where that one guy told him to lick his palms to fake sickness or whatever. He moved to his closet, taking out his typical clothing. Orange polo, jeans, and his prized red... Wait, where was it? More knocks on the door sounded off in rapid succession. Oh my god, when would the knocks stop? Lincoln decided to wing it, and opened the door with his lower body behind the door itself. He looked down to see that it was his younger sister, the blonde one. No, not the princess, the other one. Yes, that one. Yes, Lana? Hey, Link, she said, her face fiercely flushed. Another bout of silence entered the loud house again, this time between the two of them. I don't have all day, Lana. What is it you want? Lincoln said exasperatedly. I wanted to give you this. What is it? The handy woman then slipped out a pair of underpants that were maroon red, with white stripes, and stitched the undergarment together. To many, they would recognize it as a pair of regular briefs, but to the sharp eye, they would know that it was the special red velvet cotton non-binding elastic underwear that had the thread count of 2,000. And to Lincoln, they're his prized possessions that protected his prized possessions. Fabergé eggs? Did people use that to describe them? Sounds stupid. Nonetheless, he was grateful. Oh, there they are. Thanks, Lana. Where did you find them? My room? Why would they be... But before he could ask anything else, she ran off. Huh. Weird. Again. But no matter. This was the Loud House. Nothing was too weird for them. Maybe his sisters were down or whatever. He wasn't going to let that take him away from today. Maybe he didn't have a girlfriend, but that didn't matter to him. Today was a good day. He was going to keep it that way. He put on all his clothing and went down the stairs. Downstairs, he noticed that the noise that usually permeated the air suddenly vanished into thin air, leaving the silence to fill the air instead. But Lincoln wasn't concerned. In fact, he was more concerned about what girls liked best in a boy. Do you like it? Lori asked. Mm-hmm, Lincoln grunted, with a mouthful of food. I made today's food for you. I hope you like it, Lori said. Lincoln was shocked. Lori made breakfast? Since when did she make breakfast? In fact, when has she ever sat next to Lincoln at the table before? Was this even her regular seat? Was any of this even regular? Did they even have regular seats? And why was everyone so quiet? He swallowed a mouthful of food before answering. Oh yeah, it's great. She blushed at this comment. I made it with love, she suggestively said. Lincoln looked down at his plate, only to find out that all the food on his plate were heart-shaped. Pancakes were heart-shaped, eggs were heart-shaped, syrup on the pancakes was heart-shaped, even the hash browns were heart-shaped. What do you think of it? Oh my god, Lori, he stuttered. Her grin grew wider. How did you make the hash browns heart-shaped? This was Oblivion by Shadowfax0259, a Loud House fanfiction.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I feel like I've read this in a comic book or doujin or something. Wait a minute, no, this is the plot of nearly every porno ever. I was like, and maybe I'm not, maybe I'm missing something, but there's definitely some, but we're not technically brothers sort of a mentality, or we're not technically siblings mentality. Let's go back and catch back up on chat. I think that was it was a hot tutor intended in the film. I don't know what that is. College students, the class thing. Who is a single has seen the show. Lincoln is the protagonist. I feel like this is talking about different events and is messing me up. Misty said maybe Misty should write fan fictions. I agree with that. Sims fan fictions. That would be dope. Sims maybe, but really I'd be down for doing them for cartoon shows, like shows I really like. How long fan fictions are, depends. Why is Derek's voice so soothing, like as if it was ASMR? I'm going for it. He almost put me to sleep of soothingness. That's actually really good to hear. Okay, so, oh my. This is weird, because in the show, he has a girlfriend. Lava Maker, welcome to the stream. We are reading fanfictions. And from what... Too hot, sisters annoy him. Yeah, so I don't know what you just walked into. We're reading fan fictions, but the one I just read was, I feel like was the setup for, like, about 95% of all, like, hentai comics, but we're technically not siblings. And I'm like, okay. I don't know what I walked into either, I gotta be honest. But here we are. But other than that, you walked in on fanfictions submitted by you, the viewer.
Missed fanfictions. Hey, welcome to Ancestral Fanfics. Hey, we will not be branding it that, and I will thank you as such to remember that. Tentacles and siblings. Whoop, there it is. Pretty much. That's how I'm taking it here. We will not be calling Ancestral Fanfics. Not all of them are this bad. That's actually the first one that I was reading and going, if this goes on any further, like, it gets any more specific, I'm definitely just gonna stop in the middle of it and go, we're done. But it was definitely going, but we're not technically. It was a little iffy. But we're good here. We good. We all good in the hood. Fun fanfics. I will take that. ASMR fanfics, even. I actually, when you say, like, I feel like it was ASMR, that actually really means a lot to me. Because that's actually something, that'd be really cool to go into. Like, it's almost, like LeVar Burton. Tentacles, testicles, and siblings. Oh my. Exactly. But no, it's almost like Bob Ross, Mr. Rogers, or LeVar Burton. When LeVar Burton read the Go the fuck to sleep, Konosuba means Wizard of Oz. I mean, I'm using you as a chill out stream now, totally ASMR-esque. Hey, I'm totally okay with that. There's something to be said about a nice, chill stream that is not all about let's get as many kills or as many this or that as earthly possible. There is something to be said about a nice, chill stream that we can chat, we can just kind of shoot the breeze. You know, it's not high octane. I mean, I had one week that we talked about content creation, and we talked about one of the viewers just recently started watching started creating a podcast, and we were talking about how to do that, because it's not simple, and it's something I do, and talking about creating content and going with it. Missy says, okay, Gildy, we can chat and shoot the knees. Exactly. Now we know where all the Skyrim guards came from my stream. But no, like, it's one of those things of, if you want to talk about something, let's talk about it. Like, let's talk about different things. You know? This next one, I'm excited. Escape from Central City. You don't see a Planet of the Apes fanfiction go very often at all. It's interesting. I feel like you never see that. And if you're wondering, yes, this technically is Christmas music. Yes, it is on a royalty-free channel. I was hearing it going, this is absolutely... Let's talk about making a podcast in D&D, like the mechanics and all, learn all the stuffs. Yeah. Making a podcast is not exceptionally difficult. Michael says, so Derek, forgot to ask, but how is your day? My day is going outstanding. Woke up early, got some coding on a new map tracker that I'm working on. For a Link to the Past, not Link to the Past, Link's Awakening randomized. So there was no tracker up until I started creating one, and it's actually going quite well. And then I was able to go to the arcade with my lovely wife and daughter for my wife's birthday, which was lovely. I love the arcade. I love the arcade, not arcade. And then I came home and worked on my map tracker a little bit, and then did this. I watched an episode or two of Goblin Slayer as well. Snarf, I was about to mention the Christmas music. Christmas music is inherently relaxing to me, especially if it's etheric. Gildy, Derek painted the house wearing nothing but a bright neon pink beanie, as long as it was the only thing you wore. Maybe a respirator as well. Link's Awakening is one of my favorites, but damn is it linear. And when you randomize it, it's like 2 items unlock 90% of the map. Arcade with a waifu, very nice. Exactly. Turns out, I like rhythm games. I'm thinking about playing more rhythm games on stream. Just the beanie and a respirator. Okay, good. Gotta think of the lungs. I'm okay with nothing else. Gotta think of the lungs. No, rhythm games like Groove Coaster. Turns out, pretty good at it. It's one of those like it was one of those like a lot of them are actually in Japanese because they basically directly import all the games from Japan. And so rhythm games typically don't need a lot of here's how to play. It's like push button to beat, fire. It's not high octane information. You want to do Pokemon games, like randomized Pokemon games, or Pokemon games as a whole, or just straight through. Because either way, it's cool. I'm like a fan of randomized games, actually. But I don't know which to play. Well, which gen did you start with? Don't yell fire. Derek might cause a panic. Exactly. Because I would say it depends on which gen you want to start with. Like, what are you looking for in a Pokemon game? Like, the easiest to emulate is absolutely any of the earlier ones. So you've got Gen 1, Red and Blue, Yellow, of course. You've got Gen 2, Silver, Gold, and Crystal. Those are pretty easy to emulate and randomized. Oh, you need a recommendation. Have you not played any Pokemon game? Like, is there a Pokemon game that you haven't got to play yet? Because that is a good place to start. Because then you'll get to experience the story for the first time on stream, if that's what you're wanting to do with it. My personal favorite is Sapphire. That was the first, not the first one I played, but it really spurred in me the love and appreciation for Pokemon. I actually got it like right before I got Silver, which seems backwards, but at the time you could buy both of them at Target easily. And I remember seeing the Ruby and Sapphire commercials, and they were adorable. It had the photo booth-esque look, all the new Pokemon and Pete trainers that looked like them. Ruby and Sapphire inspired my lifelong love of Pokemon. From that moment on, I wanted Pokemon in my life. I wanted to have a real-life Alakazam. I wanted a real-life Mudkip. Yes, I was the person who was like, I like Mudkips. It inspired a lot of things in my life. And I continued playing it from then on. So, for me, Sapphire is the go-to. That's the one I really remember going, oh my god, I really, 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 really want this game. Because when I played Red, it was kind of like, okay. I didn't know to be excited for it. When I played Gold and Silver, Ruby and Sapphire had already been announced. So I was like, well, I want to play Sapphire. So, like I said, go play Sapphire. If I go too silent. Okay. If you go too silent, my phone died. Oh no! Don't let your phone die. Gildy says, I wanted a Jigglypuff so I could draw dicks on people's forehead when they fell asleep. I wanted an Alakazam. Mostly because psychic types are my favorite, and Alakazam was cool. Now though, I would absolutely love like a Skitty or a Lil Pup. In some of the later ones, I intentionally never finished my Pokédex. Because back when X and Y came out, we hadn't bought it yet. And I say we, me, my brother, and my friend. We hadn't bought it yet. We emulated it. And my friend had a little pup. and he thought it was the cutest Pokemon ever. Like a little terrier. And he thought it was the cutest Pokemon ever. And we all joked around that, oh, it was not the strongest Pokemon, anything like that. That winter, he actually got into a... are you on Discord, Mikkel? Because I'll send it through Discord. That winter, he was in a... I'm an Emily Laird. Okay. He was in a car accident and passed away. So, when I see Pokemon, and I see Lil Pup, that's the Pokemon I think of. That's the memory I have associated with it, is my friend. So I will not evolve Lil Pup. Because he didn't like the look of Lil Pup. And I can't say I blame him. Her Terrier's a terrible looking Pokemon. Okay, give me 1 second here. So, that is my story about Lil Pup. I seen it. I'm sending it to you right now. But that is... Yo, what up, Doug? How are you doing, man? If my game works, or if it works. We are talking Pokemon. What a great way to honor your friend. I think so too. I mean, it's... A lot of people are like, that's dumb, but I'm like, you know what? It's not, though. It's not. Ooh, I already had it. Give me 1 second to get it. There's that. And then... okay, give me 1 second. And then we'll get ready to read another one. Okay. Get back to chat. Okay. A great way to honor your friend. Condolences, Derek. A girl I dated in high school lost her sight in a car accident. Everyone else died, so that was difficult. God, that would be so difficult. It's those things that you just kind of hold on to. And it's interesting. It's interesting. Like, the things that they kind of, like, take you down. That basically knock down your defenses. So those things. Random question. Do you have any tips for keeping a toddler entertained? My kid is restless. God, I have a kiddo. God. Other than, like, Umizoomi, good Lord Almighty, and Shining Lights, truthfully, I watched Ruby and other anime, because the bright colored lights and everything, keep them entertained. Kids love tissue paper. Yes, or Goku with energy blasts and Saiyans screaming. Keeps their entertainment levels high, and you're entertained as well. Yeah, typically. That's... And anything, you know, Goku teaching your kids that true friendship and compassion is the best way to do it. Okay. But not Pokemon Seizure episode. Exactly. Exactly, right. This one is on the longer side. So, let's get started on this. Because it is on the longer side. We're going to need extra time. And then I think after that, I'm going to get some more cranberry juice. Because I'm out. Okay. Escape from Central City by Athea, A Planet of the Apes fanfiction. Chapter 1. Year of the Lawgiver, 734. Xana silently closed the door to Zaius' study behind her and took a deep breath. It was what she did every time she came here since she'd been a little girl. Inhaling the comforting mixture of leather, books, and tobacco that gave this silent, shaded abode its calming atmosphere. Sunlight filtered through the ferns and jungle plants on the windowsills, transforming the office into a green-tinted clearing in the woods. Xana felt the serenity of the place, coating her weariness like a thin sheet of dew. Her apprehension was still there underneath, but it didn't show as much anymore. Or so she hoped. "Come in, girl. Why are you standing on the door like a student facing detention?" Xana laughed and quickly crossed the floor to a big desk where Council Eldest Zaius was stuffing his pipe. "I was just thinking about how your study looks more and more like your holiday lodge. How did you find your desk under all those plants?" The ape chuckled and lit his pipe. "I leave a trail of nutshells from here to the door." "I hope I haven't disturbed it now." She sat down as he waved her into the seat. "I met your father a few days ago." Xana sighed wearily, but prepared herself to engage in a preliminary chit-chat as graceful as possible. You couldn't hurry an orangutan, and although it went against the quick and direct way of chimpanzee communication, she had learned long ago that humoring this quirk got her faster results than trying to bully her way to the actual point of the conversation. "He didn't mention that to me. Perhaps he forgot." The elder flicked her a shrewd look through the smoke of his pipe. "Getting older does not mean getting senile, young Xana. Not all at once, at least." Xana laughed again, a bit forced. "You know I didn't mean it that way. Father doesn't usually mention his conversations with colleagues to me. He thinks they'd bore me." Zaius raised his brows. "And would they?" "It depends on the discussion partner," Xana said with a sweet smile. The other ape chuckled. "Well, I was glad to see that he is in better health again. He had a delightful little chat, and he mentioned that you are slanted for promotion. Well done, Xana." "Thank you, Uncle Zaius." The familiar address seemed not to be out of place, even though she was in his office and had received an official summons to meet him as Council Eldest. No doubt, the real point of this meeting would be revealed soon enough, but she was sure that her promotion, whenever it would in fact materialize, wasn't it. "It's amazing how much we still have to learn about humans," Zaius mused, smacking his pipe. Xana leaned back in her chair and watched him. Uncle Zaius wasn't known for his interest in humans. "And thanks to your work, we have already learned much," he continued. "A quite impressive work. We always knew that you had much potential. Your mother would be very proud of you. Very proud." "I like to think so," Xana said softly. Her mother had died during the years of community service. Xana wished she had lived at least long enough to see her graduate. She sighed and decided that she had humored the old man long enough. "I got an official summons, Uncle Zaius. Still trying to determine on whose toes I've stepped in the Institute." That scheming, inbred bunch, Zaius' glance, but told her he knew exactly that she was trying to steer the conversation. But apparently, she had satisfied orangutan etiquette enough that he allowed her that faux pas. "No, it's not that kind of thing. I have a job for you." "It's very sweet, but I already have a job." Xana played up the confusion in her voice to hide her annoyance. Had that been the topic of her father's delightful little chat? She hoped not. Zaius smiled thinly. "Of course, I meant to say I have an assignment for you. In your capacity as a human behavioral scientist, You have made several applications for working with adult humans, or so I've been told. They have, so far, been rejected wholesale. Xana inhaled sharply and sat straighter. The Institute thinks humans are too difficult to handle under the given conditions. She snorted, not trying to hide her irritation. They make it sound as if I wanted to work with sharks or poisonous snakes. You wouldn't think we use them every day for work. Well, I'm pleased to tell you that I've procured some adults for you to work with. Zayas smiled at her, as if he had just presented her the pony that she'd wanted when she was 5. Xana sat there for a moment, her finger tapping rapidly against the armrest of her chair. Then she stood abruptly. Zayas stared up at her, taken aback by her reaction. I really appreciate your and father's concern for me and my career, she said in a low, controlled voice. Well, it was mostly controlled, though she could hear her fury wavering in it, like heat over a noonday road. But I neither want nor need any backroom favors. I'm perfectly capable of succeeding on my own merits. She turned to go. She was already at the door when Zayas found his voice again. Xana. He could be commanding, if he wanted to. She found herself looking over his shoulder, her hand still grabbing the handle. The orangutan wasn't meeting her eyes, seemingly engrossed in tapping out his pipe. I'm not doing you a favor. I'm asking you for one. She let go of the handle, turned back to lean against the door. What do you mean? Zayas rocked back in his chair and smacked his lips, as if he had a bad taste in his mouth. I mean, these humans aren't your normal beasts of burden. They're unusual. Xana slowly came back to her seat, intrigued despite herself. Unusual in what way? Xana sighed and began ruffling papers. They are not from here. So, with a huff, Zayas set down his pile of paper he'd collected. As in, not from our world. Xana stared at him. I don't understand. They're not from our world, Zayas repeated patiently, as if she was a bit slow. They came in a machine, and that machine crashed down near the Torum Reservation down in the south. Crashed down? Well, yes, right now she did sound as if she was a bit slow, but not from our world? Like a bird crashing into a window pane, yes. Zayas made a sweeping motion, as if batting away a mosquito. A glowing sensation spread in Xana's chest, a bubbling giddiness that wanted to catapult her out of her seat and make her jump on Zayas' desk with excitement. You're saying that there are other worlds with humans, build machines that can cross great distance between there and here? She shook her head, grinning with glee. They must be incredibly intelligent, and she was going to meet them. Zayas' stare was anything but gleeful. I need you to find out everything you can about these humans. We must know their plans if they pose a danger to our society. If there are more of them on the way, we must be prepared. He absently smoothed down the paper he had just crumpled. Xana nodded enthusiastically. Your findings will go directly to me, Zayas continued. And I don't have to tell you that this is highly classified. No word to anyone. Of course, eldest, Xana vowed. When can I begin? They'll arrive shortly. Zayas began to dig around his paper pile. Here's your authorization and the preliminary reports from the crash site. Remember, he drew away the file just as she was about to take it. Classified. All of this is for your and my eyes only. He handed her the folder. Understood. She pressed the folder against her chest. Zayas waved at it. They'll be kept in the back kennels of your institute. Xana frowned. In the abandoned wing? It was logical, if Zayas wanted to keep them a secret. but the basement was dank and dark, and detrimental to humans' health. They were to be kept there for extended periods of time. She would have to find a different solution for that. Why me? But she knew the answer, because no serious scientist bothered with studying humans. By that logic, she wasn't a serious scientist, but a girl who had never outgrown her pony phase, only that for her, it hadn't been ponies. At least she had been adult enough not to dream of emergency that would force everyone to turn to her and her exotic field of expertise. Well, not often anyway. And now she'd make him say it out loud. You're the only one who has any professional expertise in how shall we say, persuade humans to do your bidding voluntarily. General Uko has suggested more robust methods, but I don't want to start with the big guns. Santa stared at him, aghast at the implications that Uncle Zaius was not averse to using the big guns later. I'm sure we won't need the General's expertise, eldest, she stressed. I just need sufficient time to work with them. I need to build a rapport and earn their trust before they tell me anything. So don't expect a report on your desk in a few days. I'll hold them off your back as long as I can, Xana, Zaya sighed. And for the first time, he looked old and frail to her. She wondered who they were and what he was trying to shield her from. Probably Urko and his ilk. Well, they wouldn't get their paws on her humans. She had been advocating against abuse and mistreatment of humans for years, just to allow it to happen under her nose. Zaius rose from his desk, a clear sign that she was dismissed. As she rose with him and bowed her farewell. At the door, a last minute made her turn around again. How many are we talking about? 2. Fortunately, only 2. You'll still have your hands full, more than full with them. Well, I have 2 hands, so I guess I'll be alright, Uncle Zaius. She left us silently as she had entered. Vidron couldn't decide if their condition had improved or just differently bad. The first days of their journey had been pure agony. Their mobile prison had no roof, and as the sun climbed higher, there was not a scrap of shadow left in the cage, save for the thin lines of the bars, and while Burke's skin had begun to redden incrementally, Verdun's was already blistering. None of the soldiers so much as glanced at them, unless they had to relieve themselves at the bottom of the cart, which earned them the sneers and jeers of the riders following it. Nobody gave a damn that they were burning up. On the 3rd day, Verdun had woken with a pounding headache, and, no offense, Al, but you look like shit from Berg, who gave him all their water. The water didn't help. The headache got worse until he felt ready to throw up. Inexplicably, he was shivering with cold, despite the sticky sweat covering his whole body. Burke's worried face hovered above him for a moment, then vanished. Verdun squeezed his eyes shut against the blinding sun that had taken Burke's place. Move your furry, hairy ass here, monkey. My friend is sick. Verdun groaned silently. Had he or hadn't he warned Burke against provoking an ape? He couldn't remember. Something hit the bars of their cage with a thud, and he heard Burke curse. I swear to God, if this man dies here from a sunstroke, I'll hold you personally responsible for it, with whoever gave you your orders to deliver us both alive. I'll have you shoveling horse shit for the rest of your career. The cart came to a sudden halt, and Verdun could hear the clapping of a single hoofbeat. He lay perfectly still as he felt the horse come to a halt beside the cage. After a moment of tense silence, he heard the gravelly voice of the gorilla say something under his breath, and the horse being turned around. The hoofbeats were moving back to the front of the line. Someone opened and closed the door. It suddenly got darker, smellier. Something heavy was thrown over the cart. Verdun slowly opened his eyes as Burke crouched down beside him. I thought a picnic would be nice, Burke said. We have water, dried fruit, and a picnic rug. He pointed to the ceiling that was now covered by a woolen blanket that had, by the smell of it, covered a horse not too long ago. From then on, they finally had protection from the sun, and his sunburn and his headache were slowly fading over the following days. But the heavy rug allowed no ventilation. They lay perfectly still for most of the day, panting and sweating, too exhausted to even talk to each other. Verdon couldn't even distract himself by watching the strange world outside his cage anymore, as the rug completely obstructed his view. It was night when the sounds outside suddenly changed. The clapping of the horse hooves were louder and a bit distorted, as if the sound was thrown back from the nearby walls. Their cart made a lot of turns, following a winding road. They were in a city. That would also explain why they hadn't stopped to set up camp at sundown, as they usually did. Their leader, Verdon, had heard his men addressing him as Urko, and a rank, though the word was unknown to him. The tribe didn't have military ranks. Probably wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible, and not delay for another overnight stay. Both men were sitting up now, ears strained for sounds outside their cage that could give them a clue about what was happening. The cart stopped. They heard Urko exchange words with someone, and then the cart started moving, very slowly, and soon stopped again. The cloth was yanked away, and blessedly fresh, cool night air hit from their skin. The cart stood in the middle of a courtyard, surrounded by the looming shadows of two-story buildings. High above them, the thin sickle of the waning moon shed some weak light. "Welcome to Alcatraz," Bert murmured. Torchlight surrounded them, putting them in the spotlight and distorting the people in the courtyard into blurred shadows, blinded by the torches. Verdon could barely make out something long stabbing at him. Then a thin, stringing pressure over his throat turned into a choke as the sling of a lasso pole tightened around his neck. He had no choice but to follow the pole outside, stumbling and falling to his knees while he tried to dig his fingers under the sharp twine, biting into his skin. "Careful! Those are wildlings. Keep your distance or they rip your throat out." His hands were yanked behind his back and bound tightly, and someone put a leather contraption over his head. His jaws were pressed together as the assailant tightened the straps. A muzzle. They'd put a muzzle on him, as if he was some mad dog. A sharp tug at the sling, still pulled tight around his neck, brought him to his feet. He and Burke were dragged into one of the buildings, through a dark and silent hallway, and down into the basement. Their handlers lit some lanterns installed in the walls, and a row of cages emerged from the shadows. They were pushed and dragged to the far wall before Verdon could determine if any of the cages were actually inhabited. His hands were untied, and then quickly retied in front of him, and yanked over his head to be fixed over a hook in the wall. He glanced over to Burke, who was bouncing in the balls of his feet in the same awkward and painful position. Verdon cursed himself for having let them overwhelm him so thoroughly, but there had been too many of them to try and fight or an escape, and he hadn't been prepared for the sudden assault. His heart was beating rapidly now. The tendons in his shoulders were already beginning to ache. "Clean them up, Tavis. They reek," one of the apes ordered, while two others were already rolling out a hose. Verdon tensed at the sight. Judging by the size of it, the water pressure would be equivalent of a good drubbing. He exchanged a look with Burke. The other's eyes were dark with anticipation. He jerked involuntarily when a third ape set down a bucket at his feet with a heavy thud. Their loincloths were ripped off unceremoniously, and the ape began to scrub them down with a soap and a brush. Verdon bit back a groan when the hard bristles scraped off his barely healed skin. The foam turned pink from fresh blood. He was just catching his breath when the hosing began. It was as bad as was expected. No, it was worse. The muzzle forced his jaws together so that he couldn't even gasp for air, and the pounding water yanked his feet out from under him. He hung at the hook, feeling like drowning as the icy water beat against his ribs, his legs, his back, When they finally unhooked him and took off his muzzle, he fell to his knees, gurgling and coughing, too dazed to put up any resistance. When they grabbed his hair, yanked his head back somewhere to his left, he heard Burke struggling and a gruff voice telling him to hold still. "You don't want me to accidentally cut your throat, you stupid beast, do you?" Then he felt a blade at his own throat. He held perfectly still as they shaved off his beard, trying to neither swallow nor cough as long as they were working on his throat. They also shaved his head, close enough to nick the skin from time to time, whether accidentally or not. He couldn't say, but he didn't even flinch. No need to give them that satisfaction. Finally, they dragged him to his cage and dumped him on the floor. At least they took off the ropes. Burke was coughing and wheezing in the neighboring cell. "Well," Vernon heard him gasp, "let me correct myself. This isn't Alcatraz. It's a goddamn zoo." Vernon slowly climbed to his hands and knees, shivering from the cold. In a corner of his cell, he found a heap of old blankets. He pulled one of them around himself and huddled down in the rest of the pile. For a while, there was silence, except for their coughs and sniffles. "Next time I get a wash," Burke announced with clattering teeth, "I want it from a beautifully, scantily clad girls, using a sponge, not a brush." After a moment of silence, he added, "I'm still expecting to wake up at any moment. It's just too bizarre to be true. I mean, you are sure this is Earth, right?" Vernon spent their time, the tribe, obsessively identifying plants and animals. Yes, many of them were completely unknown to him. But the rest, I'm sure, unfortunately, not just because of the moon. Then what the hell happened to it? That was the million-dollar question. I think, Vernon hesitated, we jumped through a wormhole. Jones had just intended for us to travel the spatial dimensions. But what if he had made an error in his calculations? What if we hadn't traveled through space, but through time? No. How would apes take over the world? Not even in 1,000,000 years from now. Perhaps a parallel dimension, an alternative version of Earth, where apes are the ruling species, Vernon offered. He couldn't think of any better theory right now. This world was a terrifying mixture of the familiar, the strange, and the outright bizarre. He couldn't imagine this to be a future development of their own Earth any more than Burke. If this is a parallel universe, we're fucked, and nobody'll find us here, Burke muttered. We have the flight data. Well, he didn't have it, strictly speaking. Not at the moment, but it was still there. He just hoped the apes wouldn't destroy it during the course of their examination. If we could read out that information, we might get an idea how to get back. Burke snorted. Well, good luck with that. These people don't look like they've moved beyond the abacus. Yes, but that may not be true for the whole planet. Just like, say, Arturia isn't on the same level as Silicon Valley, or this tribe is nowhere near the technological level of these people. I really don't want to rain on your parade, Al, Burke interrupted. But if the world had a civilization on par to ours, this one here wouldn't have been erased or conquered a long time ago. Yeah, we'll ignore some Stone Age tribes in the rainforest, as long as they don't happen to sit on resources we want. But we wouldn't ignore a culture that was sophisticated enough to move beyond the Stone Age. Or do you know of any 19th century cultures at home? He had a point. Vernon could feel dread spreading his chest like dark water. We just don't know anything about this world and its cultures. We haven't exactly had a conversation with them about it yet, he objected, more to himself than to Burke. Besides, a memory lit up in him, and he grasped for it like a man grasping from a torch in the silent darkness of a cave. There may be other barriers to travel and communicate. He quickly recounted Iroh's story of the cursed stones. It sounded like radiation sickness to me, including the burns. There must be high radiation areas, and those can't have developed naturally. A civilization with nuclear power could be able to help us. There are areas where the rock has a high uranium content and is radioactive. Burke objected. You're not putting your hopes on a children's story, right? I need to put my hopes on something, Verdon exploded, desperate. Otherwise, there's no point in continuing. There was a long silence. All right, then. Burke's voice was flat. What's your plan? My plan? I don't have a plan. Look where my last plan took us. Aloud, he said. Get more facts about those areas. Negotiate a release. Perhaps we can trade information for information. You want to give them information? Burke sounded genuinely shocked. Not military information. I was thinking more along the lines of technological advances, like, I don't know, a better abacus. Wouldn't that violate the Prime Directive? For the first time that day, Verdon had to grin. We don't have a Prime Directive, Pete. Oh, right, Verdon thought. He heard a muttered, damn. Well, I still say, fuck those monkeys. Let's get the hell out of here. Burke continued in normal voice. Break out, get our stuff back, and some clothes, and go west, like in the good old days. I don't have much faith in these people's willingness to cooperate. I mean, they locked us up. They're treating us as an enemy. Why would I want to give them anything, even a damn abacus? That gorilla wasn't a leader. He didn't like his orders, which means whoever gave those orders doesn't share his attitude. Perhaps they can be reasoned with. God, he hoped so. It would be so much easier than trying to escape this place. He had no idea where they would turn to. They had no knowledge about this world, no point of reference. We should still have a contingency plan. Burke wouldn't let go of that bone. Verdon gave in. Fine. You just found yourself a job, Pete. Congratulations. Perfectly okay with the jailbreak job, Alan. Burke took up his tone. These locks are ridiculous. How do you, misspent youth in Jersey City? Verdon raised his brows. There's certainly a lot I don't know about you, Major Burke. Yeah, well, let's hope we're not stuck in here long enough for me to tell you all about it. This was Escape from Central City, Bethia, a Planet of the Apes fanfiction.
Planet of the Apes! Never would have thought I would have seen that again. I never would have thought I would see that in 2019. It is 2019. Let's see. Soothing voice engaged. Yes. When Derek activates soothing voice, charisma +2. Shinobi Nando, hey, just a quick hello from the UK. Well, if you're still here, Shinobi, hello. If you're not, sorry I missed you. I was reading. Full Metal Hi Chow, hello everyone. Hello, hello. Surprised to actually find someone reading fanfic on stream. I just thought of doing that. Hey, now you know someone who does. What fandom is this from? The Planet of the Apes. Thanks. I'm enjoying the whoop in this one. Okay. Enjoying the whoop in this one. And nice Star Trek reference. Exactly. Prime Directive. And dang, I never really thought about Planet of the Apes. Exactly. Exactly. It's one you just don't think about. Because it just doesn't happen very much anymore. So I'm liberally using chapstick. Well, I hope that it's exciting to you guys. It's actually really exciting to me to read to you all. And, you know, I hope that it's able to be relaxing. That's one thing I really hope that it is relaxing to you all. That it's entertaining. Oops. Now reading. There we go. Or Schnarf. Schnarf, you're up next. I've got to get some cranberry juice. Oh, you'll be right back. Cranberry juice.
Sorry about that. To go get more drink. Reading takes it out of your throat. Snarf says anything. Mine is anything but relaxing. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. Yeah, I don't really think about Planet of the Apes very often. Not anymore, really. You know, it's weird. And also, if I didn't say it, Full Metal, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. I really do. It means a lot that you decided to throw me a follow. So you were just thinking about fanfic on stream too, huh? I'm glad that is an idea that I was able to fulfill. Okay. Okay. So Gildy, what did you think of that one? Okay. Charity stream, I like it. Okay. Good. Planet of the Apes, man. Planet of the Apes. This is a Link, Pippet, and Carne? Okay. Alright. Let's read this one. Schnarf, you've been waiting so patiently. Let's do it. Let's do it. I like this one better. Okay. Okay. Not Anymore by Schnarf 9892. A Legend of Zelda fanfiction. Well, the white-clad demon frowned upon inspecting the sides of the hero's head. Your ears aren't bleeding after all. What a shame. Giram clicked his tongue in disappointment and shook his head slowly as he paced back and forth, surveying his handiwork. The demon continued. However, how should I put it? Your everything else is. So I'm going to give you a bit of a break, so you can think long and hard about where that cursed little goddess of yours is hiding. He sounds like a parent talking to a young, misbehaving child. The hero, fighting the blackness encroaching around the edges of his vision, glaring up at his captor, wishing he wasn't so helpless. Girahim rolled his eyes at the pitiful act of defiance. Oh, you will. Tell me, my dear boy. I'll coax it out of you, one way or another. Link struggled to keep eye contact with the demon, but he was quickly losing strength. His head slowly drooped back down, as he focused solely on breathing in and out. The heat was suffocating. The pain was relentless. Each ragged breath was a struggle. Staying alive for me, will you? Girahim doted. I'll be back in a few hours for some more fun. Ta-ta! Before his captor had even left the room, blackness consumed the hero's vision. The sulphurous air of Elden Volcano burned Pippet's lungs as he continued toward the center of the fiery mountain. The sound of armed swine man things echoed around the corner. What the hell are those monsters? What did the old lady call them? Bokoblins? Sure, he'd go with bokoblins for now. Whatever they were actually called, it didn't do them justice. Those things were horrifying. Trying to stifle the sound of his panting, Pippet ducked behind a boulder, and waited. Prayed fervently to the goddess the pig-like goblins wouldn't notice the terrified boy in the sweat-stoked mustard tunic as they marched past. I am in way over my head, the teen thought to himself, feeling foolish for coming so ill-prepared. Granted, he hadn't realized that he would be infiltrating a mountain of molten rock. But still, his night training dictated that he be prepared for anything, which he most definitely was not. His water skin was practically emptied, and he'd already downed one of his 2 red potions to ease the pain of the ankle he had twisted, landing on the surface. Thank the goddesses that the old lady had convinced him not to chug them both, because if Pippet made the slightest wrong move now, he would be needing more than a measly red concoction. Landing on the surface was rougher than Pippet had expected. He had hastily snipped a large rectangle off of Bruce's bread sheet to use as a makeshift sail's cloth, like Bruce would miss it being on the surface. But the smelly fabric was too thin to slow his descent to a more manageable speed. Thus the twisted ankle and the shortage of potions. So things were going great. The bokoblin things rounded around the corner, disappeared out of earshot, before the young knight in training realized the breath he hadn't realized he had been holding. Crouching down, he ventured further into the mountain, trying to stick to the shadows as much as possible, which was getting more and more difficult as he neared the glowing center of the volcano. "I'll find him soon," the boy tried to reason. "And he's probably fine and just ventured on to his next destination without visiting Skyloft." He refused to let his brain dwell on the more probable alternatives, but the sinking feeling in his gut remained. Truth be told, Pippet was terrified. Terrified for his own sake as he invaded enemy territory, but more terrified for Link's. 3 days. Link had promised. 3 days he would be gone before he'd check back in and resupply in Skyloft. Those 3 days had come and gone, and Pippet began to worry for his friend. When 3 days turned into 5, Pippet grew restless. On day 7, he threw caution to the wind and leapt off his high wing to plummet below the cloud barrier to search for his childhood friend. Hopefully, his mother and Carne wouldn't worry too much. He had lied and told them that he would be doing some required night training off the main island and wouldn't be able to visit for a few days. Required? Well, no, and calling it training now seemed like the understatement of the century. Another corner rounded, another spike in the temperature. The chainmail seemed to scald his skin through his undershirt. Pippet had no idea how much more of this aimless wandering he could endure. He really hoped he wasn't lost. Each time the ambient temperature increased, his hopes fell. Trying not to think of the confusing return trip he would inevitably have to make. He took a slow breath in an attempt to calm his frazzled nerves. The putrid air that filled his lungs only made his stomach gnawed up with nausea. In all reality, it was probably the combination of fear and his nerves that had made him queasy. But he shook his head and blamed it on the stale stench of sulfur. Finally, a door! In the distance, the door seemed to shimmer, and waver in the sweltering heat. As he approached, Pippet's hesitant excitement was slowly overtaken by fear once again. There was no telling what was behind this door. It could be an army of bokoblins, or worse, the Zalfos. Or it could be yet another pit of lava and fire keys. There was only one way to find out. Pippet steeled his nerves and reached towards the handle, which was locked. Damn it all to the surface, Pippet cursed under his breath. He paced in front of the ornate metal door. Of course this one was locked. Nobody would be foolish enough to leave anything of importance behind an unlocked door, especially one tucked so far into an erupting volcano. This room was practically at the center of the mountain anyway. No one wanted to cook themselves alive. so why bother locking the doors? It seemed pointless. Unless... Oh, right. Maybe he was more tired than he realized. Resolve renewed, the young knight in training backed up, took a breath, and threw his shoulder into the door. Over and over, the boy rammed into the door, loosening it little by little. Come on, he coaxed, becoming more agitated as his shoulder grew sore. Just as he was getting ready to give up and search for another entrance, the door burst open. Pippet tumbled into the massive room with all the grace of a drunken Kiwiki. Scrambling back on his feet, he whipped out the sword he had stolen from the Skyloft armory, lest any monsters had already moved in to attack. Sword in hand, his eyes darted around the room, searching for foes. When he found even the high cave ceiling to be void of keys, he felt himself relax a touch. He then let down his defensive posture, but kept his sword in his hand, as he took more thorough survey of his surroundings. Essentially, the room was empty, and slightly cooler than the labyrinth of hallways leading to it. The floor beneath his boots was a beautifully tiled mosaic of the fire dragon himself. Why create such an intricate masterpiece in the center of a volcano? Pippet didn't know, but he was more impressed. The torchlight danced across the tiles, revealing small spots of crusted, ruddy dirt. There was a distinct trail of the brown splotches, and upon closer inspection, Pippet's heart sank. It was not dirt, it was dried blood. Following the trail, Pippet wheeled around towards the back corner of the room. What he saw made him want to cry in his mother's arms, or vomit. Maybe both. Oh, goddesses. Link! He floated in an ocean of black. It gripped him tightly, drowning the hero in emptiness. Surprisingly, he felt comfortable and at peace. But something wasn't right. He couldn't place it, but it didn't really bother him. Somewhere, something was calling out, and it sounded like a male voice, perhaps familiar. He couldn't be sure. A name, maybe? Whose name was that? The voice sounded panicked as it was echoing through all the encompassing shadows. Was that his name? He didn't even know. Unable to think through the fog, he thought about falling back into the void of emptiness he'd been a moment ago. It would be so easy to let the nothingness consume him once more. It was rather lonely, though. Wasn't there something he was looking for? Memories, fuzzy through the haze of darkness, seemed to glow in his mind. A warm laugh, bright cerulean eyes, a slightly floral scent of her golden hair. Zelda. The memory of her seemed to fight back the cold darkness, threatening to overtake him once again. He struggled against the black tendrils, holding his consciousness, pushing forward towards a growing light with a renewed determination. The voice called out again. The hero focused on the sound, using it to pull himself out of the cold blackness. It sounded thick, garbled, and distant. As he fought the arms imprisoning him, the voice became clearer, and the light grew stronger. Link! Link! Can you hear me? Link, answer me, damn it! The sea of blackness, shattered and fell away, and a torrent of agony flooded the battered hero. Oh, goddesses, everything hurt. His head was pounding, broken ribs shifted painfully with each breath. A particularly deep gash across his abdomen throbbed with each heartbeat. The caked layer of blood baked onto his skin hid the bruises from view, but he felt each one. His shoulders ached from being strung up by his wrists, which were inflamed and raw from straining against his shackles. The burns across his bare back stung each time the air shifted. It was too much. The blackness encroached upon him again, and he struggled to retain some level of consciousness. If he went back into that void, he wouldn't return from it. Clang! Link didn't even have time to wonder what that sound could have been before his arms were loosened, and he crumpled onto the warm tile. He groaned at the wave of pain that shot through his body. Fighting the darkness, he focused on one ragged breath at a time. It was as if somebody was sitting on his chest, stabbing knives into his torso. Never before had he been this hard to breathe. He felt himself being hastily turned over. Was somebody holding him? Shaking him gently? Link, wake up! The same voice pleaded. Come on, buddy, open your eyes. His eyelids felt like lead, but he managed to open them halfway. Blurred blotches danced in his vision, swimming with each labored inhalation. Link's eyes fluttered shut once more, and his head lolled into his rescuer's arm. The darkness was returning. A quiet, strained groan escaped Link's parched lips, and relief washed over Pipit. Link was alive. Pipit had found him. Fumbling through his pouch, he grasped the single remaining red potion. Mentally kicking himself for drinking the other one, he tipped a tiny bit into Link's mouth. It dripped down his throat, throwing him into a convulsive fit of coughing. Pipit, now more terrified than ever, felt utterly helpless as his childhood friend struggled just to breathe. He could only hold the hero and wait until his weak friend's chest stopped spasming. Red liquid dribbling down Link's chin, and Pipit realized not all of it was the potion. Finally gasping for air, Link felt something cool being pressed once again to his lips. Drink it, Link. Please drink it. Pipit pleaded as he tipped the liquid into the hero's mouth once again, praying for the goddess's intervention in this hopeless situation. Pipit glanced down at the damage. Link's tunic and chainmail were nowhere to be seen. A few links of chain dangled from the rusty shackles, still clamped around his wrists. The once khaki pants were now torn, stained, and crusted with the blood from recent wounds. Even the soles of his leather boots were thin and burnt. Goddesses, Link, what happened to you? He whispered, not wanting to know the answer to his question. Finally, the hero swallowed some of the potion. Pipit waited patiently as he could before offering more. It was an agonizingly slow process, and Pipit was anxious to get out of there before Link's tormentor came back. Finally, Link finished off the potion and his eyes fluttered open, as a few moments before his eyes focused and found his old friend. Pipit? The boy croaked out in a hoarse voice. What are you? Link winced and shifted a bit in Pipit's arms. It was taking too long for the potion to take effect. You didn't show up, so I came looking for you, Pipit replied, answering Link's unfinished question. And it's a damn good thing I did too. Link's labored breathing was starting to even out. He felt some energy slowly starting to come back to him, and the mental fog cleared a bit. Thankfully, some of the pain was beginning to lessen as the potion finally did its job. He was still in agony, but he wasn't drowning in the pain anymore. I don't have much, Pipit sighed as he pulled out his water skin. But here's some water. Link's eyes went wide, and he reached up with shaking hands, downing the rest of the precious liquid in 2 swallows. He handed the drained leather pouch back to Pipit. The broken chains attached to the iron cuffs on his wrist jangled with each movement of his arms. After catching his breath, or rather attempting to, Link had his friend help him into a sitting position. The gash in his abdomen throbbed, and the change in position threw Link into another violent coughing fit. His fractured ribs screamed at him, and he wrapped an arm around his torso to somehow ease the pain. Blood trickled down his chin, and he spat it out of his mouth. Goddesses, Pipit thought in horror, trying not to imagine what Link had endured to obtain such wounds. He put the hero's arms around his shoulders. Link, we have to get out of here, he said, the fear evident in his voice. Link nodded, still wincing in pain. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Pipit hoisted his friend up to a standing position. The floor seemed to shift and roll beneath Link's feet. He wavered, and his knees buckled, but Pipit held him up. You alright? He asked the hero, who nodded weakly in reply. Pipit didn't believe him, but continued anyway. Let's go before whoever did this comes back. Link shook his head and stopped Pipit. Wait, he rasped. My gear. Pipit's jaw dropped. Link, you can't be serious. Link looked into his friend's eyes and simply stated, Potions. Pipit sighed. I can't believe we're doing this right now, he said as he pinched the bridge of his nose, helping his friend stay vertical. The pair made their way out of the mosaic room in search of Link's sword and items, ducking enemies along the way. Sword, shield, bow, quiver, Pippet muttered to himself, mentally checking items off their list. Link peered around the corner with blade and shield in hand, checking for lurking bokoblins. The 3 potions in his pouches had seemed to revitalize the hero. The wound still remained, but he stood strong and confident. It was as if his injuries no longer pained the blonde. Pippet had wrapped strips of his bedsheet sailcloth around the deep laceration in Link's torso, utilizing their limited supplies of makeshift bandages. Crimson had already soaked through, contrasting starkly against the white bedsheet. Link tightened his belt pouch and around his bare waist, making do without his other garments. Pippet spoke up. "The last thing we need are your tunic and chainmail, right?" Still checking around the corner, Link replied, "I don't have a tunic anymore." His voice, still low and hoarse, betrayed no emotion. Pippet's brow furrowed. "What do you mean you don't have a tunic anymore? Where'd it go?" When Link pursed his parched lips and didn't respond, the young knight pressed further. "What happened?" The bloodshot, cerulean eyes flashed with anger and fear in the volcanic glow. Link's fierce gaze alone cut Pippet off before the hero slowly stated, "You don't want to know." Pippet gulped and dropped his gaze to the floor. Link softened a bit upon seeing his naive friend put the pieces together in horror. The hero sighed and attempted to run his fingers through his hair, but the bloodied and matted locks would not allow passage. "Sorry," Link relented as his untangled his fingers and wiped them down his sweat-glazed face. "It's been a long week." Pippet's gaze shifted back to Link with a macabre bewilderment in his eyes. He half chuckled. That might be the understatement of the year. If not for the gravity of the situation, the pair would have been amused. Instead, Link gave a one-sided smirk and turned back to the intersection, motioning for Pippet to follow. Link clutched his short lengths of chain attached to his shackles in his hands, silencing their jangling as the pair snuck down the hallway to the next corner. When he found no adversaries in sight, Link crouched down on his heels and began drawing a crude map in the volcanic dirt. Pippet took the opportunity to ask, "How are you holding up?" Without looking up, Link replied flatly, "I'm completely numb. Can't feel a thing. I don't think that'll last much longer, though. I give it maybe 7 minutes before the potions start to wear off. If we're lucky." Pippet pursed his lips in worry as the hero put the finishing touches on the map. "This," the blonde instructed as he tapped a point on the map, "is where we are now. We need to get to the Loftwing statue, which is here." He tapped the bird icon with the other hand. As he began indicating a winding path they would need to take, the hero continued, "We are almost to the volcano's edge. Once we are out of there, we'll have troops of patrolling bokoblins sneak past. The watchtowers," he noted as he drew in their respective markings, "will pay special attention to the guards' blind spots." Link looked up at his mustard-clad friend and said, rather bluntly, "This is not going to be easy, and there are no shortcuts." Pippet gulped and nodded. "So how do we do this?" he asked. Link stood and took his Master Sword in hand again. "We have 2 possibilities. Option 1. We try and sneak past everyone. While we'll have fewer fights in the cover of night, this will take some time, and I'll be dead weight once these potions wear off. Option 2. We make a break for it, fighting our way out when necessary." Pippet attempted to voice his objections to the perceived no-win scenarios, but Link interrupted. "There are no good options here, and we don't have much time." Pippet hesitantly took in a breath of sulphurous air and began, "I vote..." Suddenly, a tremor shot the ground, shaking the rock beneath their feet. Echoes of crashes and explosions emanated from the center of the volcano. Screams of rage reached the knights' entraining ears, and any remaining color drank from Link's face. A furious voice snarled, "Find him!" The distant howls of bokoblins bounced off the igneous walls. Battered and burned, Link gripped the Master Sword tightly and yelled, "Run!" This has been Not Anymore by Schnarf 9892, A Legend of Zelda fanfiction. Okay. That was really good. Not off. I don't feel like you don't hear. Not very often you hear Skyward Sword fanfiction. Not often at all. Ouch. Guildy, I have to read something for fanfiction research. However, I'll be hanging voice later after stream if you'd like to chat. Guilty, 9 times out of 10 after stream, I actually sit in complete silence because I have for the last 3 hours I've talked. Skyward Sword was in the mid-ground of games. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. There we go. I think it's underrated. It's not by any means like the best. But I think as a whole, it's good. The gameplay was weird, yeah, but I really enjoyed the plot. I really enjoyed that fanfiction, Snarf. I hope that I did it justice. I know for a little bit I was stumbling there for a little bit. But I actually really liked that, and I'm really happy and thankful that you sent it to me. I kind of hope that this becomes a thing. I'd like this to be a thing for the fanfiction subreddit, honestly. Because in my thought, there are a lot of people that want their work read, and I would be honored if I was able to read them for people. I think it's in a weird sense, it's a mutually beneficial thing. It gets people to read their work and give feedback and constructive criticism and excitement over fan fictions. I mean, we gushed over Planet of the Apes, Skyward Sword, and Lost House, Odd House. We gushed over different animes and different shows, and I think it's mutually beneficial for both communities to kind of meet. It helps me practice more orating, more reading, and it's beneficial to the fanfiction as a fanfiction group as a whole. And honestly, that's where you all come in as fans, as sharing this stream and sharing the idea of, hey, submit your fanfictions. Like, this guy's not a complete jackass and just reads and doesn't give anything back, doesn't give any feedback. And I would hope that the way I've presented the and down in one of the panels there's actually links directly to your stories, and actually I have a command for that, and that's what I hope that I'm linking it enough of that, hey, this is what's going on, you know, because I want to be beneficial to the fanfiction community as a whole. I want to be beneficial to you all, because it's without you, I wouldn't be sitting here speaking as a whole. Just thought. I wouldn't be here talking, reading your fanfictions, if not for you. So only through you all do I stand a chance of continued growth, continued reading and speaking. So, just a thought. Just a complete thought. You know, take it as you will. I would hope that this is something you're I would hope this is something you feel comfortable enough sharing with your friends who write. Maybe friends who don't, but friends you're like, hey, this random dude on the internet wants to read my work, and it's gonna be on the internet. So hey, you'll know something on it. You'll know this piece of work. I hope. I hope that hope. I hope that that I'm good enough as a whole. So that's my theory. You know. Let's move on to the last one, and then we can chat some more before the end of stream. I gotta use more chapstick. Tell you what, this dries out my lips like nothing else. Chapstick, if you want to sponsor me, do it. Please, sponsor me. Notice me sometime. Okay, let's read the last one. Animals by Matt Chewy. A Zootopia fanfiction. Animals. In the end, our true nature that we hide is the very thing we need for survival. We must all become animals to survive. Source unknown. It racked through his mind like a bullet, his actions leading up to this moment. And now he stood at the precipice, the end of the road he and others traveled on. The wolf held the world's salvation in his grip, and he knew how this would end. But he'd made up his mind and aimed his gun downwards. He pulled the trigger, and it was over. Several months ago, March 17, 2018, Des Moines Auto Parts, 8:55 p.m. Victor, get the heck over here. Victor chuckled. Des Moines needed help again, like always. The old otter always called him over for the most trivial problems that were easy to fix. The Bobcat had always better reach for certain cars. The otter had no chance of fixing with his species difference. Coming! Victor sped the mostly empty garage before finally making it over to the Des Moines car. The otter was underneath it. Tools piled all around him. The Bobcat folded his arms. What do you need now, Gramps? The otter rolled out from under the truck, dusting himself off before standing up. Well, it's not the car, if that's what you're wondering. Victor sighed. Then why did you call me over here then? The otter reached inside his pocket, pulling out an envelope with a messy, paw-written name on it. Some fella dropped this by. Think he knew you. Victor snatched it out of Des Moines' hand before putting it in his pocket to read later. Victor had very few friends in Chicago, and he had no idea who could have sent this letter. He kept his expression neutral as he looked at Des Moines. Who brought it? The otter shrugged. Had a hoodie on. Thought it was a pred. But the odd thing was, it had no tail. Victor shrugged. I'll keep that in mind. He started to go back to the front of the garage before he felt the otter tap his shoulder. Before you go, thank you for all your hard work. You have helped me keep this place in business even at this old age. I've got my daughter's birthday to plan for, so I'll let you go early, if you close up the shop after you go. Victor was surprised. Des Moines rarely let his workers off early. Victor smiled. Thanks, boss. He grabbed his stuff that was near the front of the garage, then exited out into the city. Chicago was a bright, bustling city at night, full of all sorts of mammals. But crime stained its street during this time. While there was more of a push for more cop patrols at night, not many people roamed around at night unless they had a close destination or were looking for trouble. Victor knew his way around the streets. Even though he had only been here a few years, he mainly went down a few safest routes back to his place, well lit and with groups of people. But tonight, he took a shorter route back to his apartment, one that cut through several blocks that some considered dangerous. He knew that he was fine here. Not many animals want to get in a fight with a bobcat. As he walked, he put his hand in his pocket, feeling the envelope. He snatched it out of his pocket and opened it with his claw. Folded it. He opened it with anticipation. It was after reading it that he wished he had ignored it, or thrown it in the trash before he opened it, or done something else. He read over it again, just to make sure that it was real. And by the time he finished, he realized he shouldn't have done that. He panicked, running through the alley after alley as if something was hunting him. Finally, he ran into an alley that had no cameras near it, and didn't come out of the other side. 50 minutes after that, Victor Sarceto was found dead near his apartment complex. No trace of a letter, nothing, not even the envelope. But the part that confused the CPD was the state of the body. A perfect cut across the body that wasn't what killed him. The blood loss wasn't the thing that killed him. It was a heart attack that killed him. And the killer knew that. It was the only organ left in the bobcat's body when they found him. All the rest? Gone. No suspects, no motive, no idea of how this case will be solved. Sometimes the wolf didn't want to wake up in the morning. Not in a I hate my life way, but more like I'm tired and I want to do nothing way. But his job required it. Actually, former job. The phone buzzed again. Some pop ringtone that he had set randomly when he first added contacts to it. He had hated it at first, but now he only kept it to remind himself that it was just a part of his life. He trudged over to pick it up, flicking it open. "Fen here." A female voice spoke loudly into his ear. "Major needs you for this new case. Got a murder that needs your, No. He was ready to push the off button before he sighed, and put it back up to his ear. It appeared the operator hadn't noticed response, still going on about the murder, and he had no organs left, just a heart. "Major says you worked with a case like this, right?" Fenner sighed, "And it was cases like that led me to my retirement. What makes this different from some other organ snatcher?" The wolf heard the sound of paper shuffling before it stopped. The operator spoke again. "Wouldn't those snatchers take the heart too?" "It's rare, actually. Not many mammals have the same organ structure as others. Most organs are either wasted or sold for pitiful amounts to mammals who think they can be Frankensteined. Anyway, is there anything else?" He heard more papers being shifted before he heard the operator speak up again. "He wants you to look over everything at the scene before we have to move the body." The wolf grumbled, placing the phone on his desk before getting dressed. He grabbed an old pair of jeans and a gray shirt. "I'm still going to need payment for this. I'm technically done working on cases. I don't have a job." Technically he was right, but Fenner was a freelancer now, and no one, even the major, knew the exact circumstances of the job. Fenner could feel the annoyance of the operator as he put his phone back up to his ear. "He'll tell you the details once you arrive. I've seen the pictures from the scene. Haven't seen this much blood splattered since they showed us that training video on edged weapons." The operator continued, "Anyway, I have to get back to the paperwork now. The location is at 655 North Cicero Avenue. Good luck." The phone cut off, making him realize he had not said anything about his choice of doing the job. Damn. He stifled a laugh as you remember having to watch that same video back in his training days. The video in question, surviving edged weapons, was shown to every cop in the district when he first entered the force. It was pretty realistic, even though it was originally done in Wisconsin. Even though it was educational. He had once seen a post online, with commentators wanting to see more. He stuffed his phone in his pocket, while also grabbing his keys. Fenner quickly put on his jacket, black with a Kevlar frame interlaced on the inside. He left his pistol, a Colt 1911, with a dark green grip in his drawer, under lock and key. While many cities in the United States had strict gun laws, cities like Chicago was one of the few little legislation on gun laws. Zootopia was the only city in the US that had outlawed guns outright. This hadn't stopped smuggling, though. Most of the smuggling was started in Chicago, with dealers going to other cities around the country, with most activity centering in Zootopia. He stood at the door, feeling conflicted. His thoughts went through his mind. Why didn't he just say no? Why didn't he just hang up? Why not just say he was busy or on a date or some boring bullshit? He shrugged. Maybe he liked the hunt, the feeling of finding some sort of resolution. That was what drove him. He opened the door and walked out into a new day. This was Animals by Matt Chewy, a Zootopia fanfiction. Ah. Someone gave the bobcat a major injection of potassium? Maybe. Maybe. Okay. That's actually the last story for the night. So that's dope. Let's save that. Oh man, that was good. That was actually all of them I have for the night. Okay, boom, boom, boom. 700. Cool. I think that's actually gonna end it for the night, actually, as well. So if I've entertained you, I hope that I did. Enjoyed that one. Nice premise, good immersion with the language choices. Exactly. I hope that I've entertained you all. Okay. I enjoyed that. Yes, it does. So, there we go. I hope that you all enjoy that this evening, and I hope that you'll tell your friends and share this stream as well. The VOD will still be up, so if you want to share, if you had something you read and you want to share it to people, do it. Share it with them and be like, hey, look, this is my story. And if you know of anybody that was featured in this episode and you want to let them know that you enjoyed their story, there's links down below of what I read. So you can go click on it and go leave a review, go let them know, hey, I heard you on the stream and it was amazing. Go comment on their work. That's what I want. If I've entertained you, I mean, I'll always accept bits, but truthfully, go tell the authors of the stories that you read, hey, I enjoyed your shit. I enjoyed it. It was good. I hope to hear more of your stories later. I think that's what all content creators want, is someone to tell them, man, I enjoyed your shit. It was good. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. So, that's all I got. I hope that you all had a great evening. We're able to relax in some people's cases, chill out. I have a strong feeling Misty fell asleep. I have that strong feeling. Just a feeling, maybe. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it. And I will have to catch you all later on Monday, most likely, for some more Final Fantasy XIV. So, I think that's actually where we'll be ending it for the day. So let's put on some good music as we drift off and go into the evening. As we turn off this music. So, thank you all again for joining me. I truly appreciate it. Oops. I really do. And, I hope. Well, you bet for reading the next chapter of some of these fics. Yes! Let me know if you want your chapter to be read. You can hit me up on Twitter. You have my Twitter, actually. You have my Twitter there. We're gonna go ahead and start ending it there. But you can actually reach me out on the Discord, or on Twitter. That's the best places to reach out to me and go, hey, you read my chapter, I'd really like you to read chapter 2. And I will. And if there are times if I don't get to it immediately, I actually have, like, say, second chapter days, where if I've read your chapter 1 or chapter 2 or whatever, you're like, hey, I want to read you to read my next chapter, I'll do it. So, reach out on Twitter, reach out on Discord.
I'm typically always on Discord, so that's the best way to reach me. Or if you need to reach me on Twitter, I actually have a link down below that's actually to my Twitter as well. So either way works for me. Or you can reach me through Reddit. Turns out I'm on Reddit. So I think that's actually where we're gonna go ahead and end for the evening. Let's see. That's actually my Twitter as well. And my Instagram, if you want to send me pictures. So let's go ahead and end the stream there. And I will see you all on Monday. How's that sound? I hope to see you for Final Fantasy. So, until then, I hope that you have a great evening and a great weekend. Peace!